So as I've explained in the 2 previous videos before this, Ninjago is a show that of course is going to be subject to animation errors. It is one of the 3 guarantees of life: death, taxes, and a ninja is not going to have their shoulder pads in a scene where they are meant to. It's just an unavoidable circumstance in any sort of media, because nothing or no one is perfect, but I enjoy pointing it out because I think the subject is fascinating. And like I said about 2 previous videos, I have covered every single season up until what we've got today, which is going to be the Oni trilogy. And in case this is your first video where I talk about animation errors, here is the criteria. It is a nice and simple, I like to point out animation errors that I find fascinating and not the simple ones that you will see in a common Ninjago episode. Basically, if there's a scene where Lloyd's missing his shoulder pads, or Wu is doing something strange, or something is just wrong in the background, I'm not really going to point it out. But it's when it's something a little more fascinating or simply funny, I will then show it off. But like I've said, let me know if you do have any animation errors from the seasons that you enjoy, because I certainly love discovering new ones, as every single video I've done so far, I have discovered something new. But just like that, welcome to Animation Errors in Ninjago 3. Now like I said, we're only going to be covering the Oni trilogy in this episode, so this is a bit of a shorter one, but I will make up for it for the fact that the next episode is probably going to be the longest of the bunch, because knowing me, I'm probably going to cover season 11 through till Crystallized, so it's going to be a long one, so stay tuned for that. But let's get into the Oni trilogy itself, and let's start with season 8. Now I have noticed for all 3 of these seasons, they are relatively good when it comes to animation errors. There's not that much in the way of anything fascinating, but there are still a couple that I think are funny. And our first error from the Sons of Garmadon is going to come from episode 2, and it's when the Sons of Garmadon are attacking the palace. In the scene where Mr. E breaks the glass to get his hands on the Mask of Deception, in a very quick panning shot, we get to see the ninja in the background. But there's something different about all of them. This being that this is the only shot in the entire fight scene where all of the ninja lose their ninja hoods, whereas for the rest of the scenes, they keep them on. Now this is extremely subtle, and I never noticed this until I did this video, but it is there, and now I can't unsee it because every single ninja is missing their hoods. Now there's a very simple explanation for this. They clearly have 2 different models for when the ninja do and don't have their ninja masks on. And because the scene didn't really involve the ninja, they probably just had the first model that they had on hand, which was probably the unmasked variant. But it's still interesting because in the context of the show, they all took off their masks just to take them back on when Mr. E broke the glass, and now I cannot unsee it. But for the second animation error from season 8, this is definitely one again that I didn't notice until now, and it's very strange because it is the only instance of this happening. During season 8, when Kai has his 2 katanas, he keeps them along his back parallel to each other like he does in season 6. But for some reason, in this one specific scene in episode 10, Kai doesn't have it that way. In the scene where Kai jumps down and he interrupts a guy going to the toilet, we can see that both of the swords are along his back in a cross formation, whereas they shouldn't be and they never will be outside of this point. Now again, how does this happen? I don't know. Because why would there be a version of the Kai model that has these swords that way when we never see it again? And in the literal sense, we never see this way of Kai having his swords again, and this is the only scene that it happens. My simple answer is that it was probably a placeholder until later down the line where they were meant to finish the scene in the right formation, because it's not the only time a ninja's weapon on their back is in the wrong position. It's actually a fairly common occurrence. But it's just fascinating to note that this is the only time that it happened, and it's not as if it was a brief scene, it's a scene where Kai has his back towards the camera, so it feels fairly obvious in retrospect. But other than that, there's not really an explanation for why it happened, but it's certainly there, and like every other animation, I can't unsee it. But this of course leads us to season 9, and again, there just wasn't a lot for this season. Honestly, hats off to the animation in these 3 seasons, because it is fairly airtight, and you'll realize quite quickly the March of the Oni was very difficult to do this for, but still, there's still some, like it's no Rattler's eyes being wrong or T-pose in Baitars, but they're still there regardless. So let's get into the first one. The first one does come from episode 3, and this involves Pixel, and this one quite frankly is hilarious, because canonically speaking, if this is how it happened in the show, what is she doing? In the scene where Lloyd is giving his speech and Mistake and Masako are listening to it on the TV, Pixel is in shot. But the weird thing is that her helmet is on the wrong way. She is facing forward and you can tell by her arms, but for some reason the helmet is on completely backwards. So she's just staring into the back of her helmet right now. And again, this is probably just a result of the animators not seeing it, because Pixel wasn't really in shot. She's only in there partially, but still it's there, and I really don't understand how the helmet managed to get on backwards, but here we are. Again, this was probably just a case of the animators not paying attention because Pixel wasn't a main part of the scene, but it's still hilarious to think of it, because in all of these animation errors, I like to think of it as it actually happened canonically. So Pixel in this scene just turned her helmet around because she just didn't want to watch. But then that of course leads us to the second one, which is coming from episode 10, and I have the animation error, but I also have a bonus that was in the scene. At the very beginning of the episode, where Zane freezes over a whole bunch of SOG members, including Ultraviolet, which, a bonus for a bonus, this is completely off script now, but Ultraviolet is frozen, but she's also unconscious in the scene in a different position, and she keeps moving position during the scene. It's strange, but she keeps moving. It's really weird. But the thing about the ice in the scene is that for a very brief moment in the shot where the dragons are landing, the ice disappears, but the Sons of Garmadon members don't. So this just leads to this great moment of, oh, the ninja are back. But the Sons of Garmadon are just stood there and they're still, and they're not doing a thing. So what happened there? Because the ice is included in every other scene and more obscure scenes, to put it lightly, but in this shot it's gone. And it just looks funny because the members are still there. I don't know how this was a thing. But as for the second bonus now, the other thing is that when the dragons do land, Wu runs. Like, he books it. Like, where is he going? And the thing is that he just turns around and he walks back to Lloyd and Nia in a different direction from where he ran. But now I can't watch this amazing scene without seeing Wu absolutely haul it away from them. This is just an interesting scene in general, I have to say, because there's so much going on, but it's also such a cool scene at the same time. It's whiplash when it comes to Ninjago, I tell you what. But that does do it for Season 9, and that one was a bit of a roller coaster, to put it lightly. But that does lead me to the March of the Oni, or Season 10, and like I said, this was a very tough one. The combination of the Oni trilogy just being quite good in the way of its animation, along with the fact that it's only 4 episodes, led to just not having much in the way of animation errors. So I do have 2. One I think is better than the other, but they're still there. The one that I don't think is as good comes from episode 1 of season 10, where we do have a shot where Zane's hair is completely misaligned with his head, and it looks like he just shifted his hair over slightly. Again, this is just a simple case of a misalignment on the animation, and they probably just forgot to move Zane's hair, but it's still there. And like I said, this season was really tough to do, so that's all I really got for the first one. But there he is. And also, Zane doesn't have that many animation errors, so I just wanted to have one with him in it. But the next one comes from endings, and this one is a bit more fascinating, I have to say. And this is concerning Lloyd's sword that he uses throughout the entirety of the Oni trilogy, because he's not meant to have it in this shot. As far as I'm aware, he loses it in episode 2 when he goes into the darkness. I think he loses it at some point. I know he takes it with him, but I don't remember him leaving with it. It's really strange. I don't know, it's been a while since I've watched the season. Also, as another side note, if you've made it this far, for one, you're a legend. 2, let me know what your favourite ninja weapons are that aren't elemental weapons. I'm mainly thinking their original weapons, like the standard weapons, the season 8 through 10 weapons, or their Wild Brain era weapons, the gold variants. Let me know which one you prefer, because I've always thought about that. But Lloyd is not meant to have his sword during this episode, because like I said, it's lost. But in 2 shots specifically, Lloyd has his sword. Where's it come from? The first instance he has it is when all the ninja are staring down the Oni, and he just has it. I don't know why he has it, but there it is. And the second one, which is a lot more subtle, is when they're conjuring the Tornado of Creation. Again, when all the ninja are starting to use Spinjitzu, if you look for a very quick second, again, the sword is in Lloyd's hand. And it disappears after this scene. We don't see it again. So what's going on with the sword? My honest theory is that they intended on Lloyd to have his sword during this battle, because clearly they wanted him to have it because all the other ninja have their weapons, but Lloyd lost it in episode 2. So I think they forgot halfway through that he lost it and they had to remove it but it just made its way through to some of the scenes. I think they somewhat do the same for Nia's spear during this episode. Nia's spear appears and disappears as well, as far as I'm aware. I may be wrong. Editor's note, leave it on the screen if I'm wrong here and I'm just waffling. But as far as I'm aware, Nia does the same, because she goes in and out of having the spear after she gives Cole back the scythe. So again, just really weird. I just don't know if they wanted to have normal weapons in this fight, unless you were Faith. So again, just very strange, but there's the error for you. But that about does it for the animation errors of this video, and I hope you enjoyed, and let me know which one was your favourite. My personal favourite is probably the one with Pixel and her helmet, because it's just funny. Like, I don't understand, and I like to think that she actually did have a helmet the wrong way round. But that's probably my personal favourite of the bunch, but they're all good in their own ways. But like I said, let me know which ones you guys like, and again, thanks for watching, and I do hope you enjoyed. But that about does it. Take care. Okay,